There's been some noise swirling around the Las Vegas Raiders, and it's time to set the record straight. A couple of months ago, reports surfaced that the Raiders were shopping tight end Michael Mayer. At the time, it raised eyebrows across the fan base. Why would they move on from such a promising young talent? But now, that speculation has been shut down, and it's coming from one of the most trusted voices close to the team, Vincent Bonsignore. According to him, the Raiders have no interest whatsoever in trading Mayer, and frankly, that's exactly how it should be. Let's be clear, Michael Mayer isn't just another name on the roster. He's a cornerstone in the making. You don't need to see a 1,500-yard season to recognize greatness in a tight end. Mayer's value won't always show up in stat sheets, but it will be obvious on the field, through his blocking, his toughness, his reliability in clutch moments. He might not be fed like a featured wideout, but give him just 75 solid targets this year, and you'll see why the Raiders were right to hold on tight. Mayer's presence matters. He's not just a future weapon, he's already becoming one. If Michael Mayer sees even a moderate share of the offense this year, say around 75 targets, we could be looking at 60 receptions, 700 to 800 yards, and a serious presence in the run game. But his value goes far beyond the box score. Mayer is the kind of tight end who does the dirty work, the blocks that don't make highlights but win games. And for the Raiders to not shop him and instead stay committed for the next 2 seasons. That's not just smart, it's essential. Here's the bottom line. Teams don't win in this league without good football players. It's that simple. Schemes help. Coaching matters. But talent wins. Mayer is one of those players you build around, not shop away. The Raiders made the investment. Now it's time to let it pay off. And speaking of payoff, Mayer recently opened up about his role heading into this season. And it's a complete shift from where things stood last year. Under the old offensive system, Mayer was often left on the sideline, watching as the field was flooded with 3, 4, even 5 wide receivers. He was a second thought. And to make matters worse, he missed a stretch of time due to injury, roughly 6 to 8 weeks, further limiting his impact. But that's changing. In the new offense led by Cliff Kingsbury, not Chip Kelly, Mayer is expected to be a focal point. That's coming straight from Mayer himself in a recent interview on the Raiders' official channel. He's preparing for a big role, and you can feel his hunger to prove he belongs in the spotlight. This isn't just lip service. This is a second-year breakout waiting to happen. Michael Mayer recently gave fans a rare glimpse into what's coming for the Raiders' offense. And if his words are any indication, we're about to witness a serious transformation. Speaking about his role, Mayer mentioned something that should excite every Raiders fan. The team is running a heavy dose of 12 personnel, and even mixing in 13 personnel sets during the offseason. That's 2 and even 3 tight ends on the field at once, a physical throwback style that matches Mayer's game perfectly. He didn't reveal too much, saving the real details for Sundays, but what he did share paints a clear picture. Mayer knows what's expected. He's preparing for a full workload, blocking, pass protection, route running, making defenders miss, and finishing plays in the end zone. Whatever the offense asks, he's ready to do it. If coach wants me on the field, he said, I've got to block, I've got to run routes, and I've got to score touchdowns. And when it's time to block, I'm giving everything I've got. That's the mindset of a warrior, a player who understands the grind of tight end play in today's NFL. Now remember, this isn't just talk. This is being confirmed by multiple beat reporters at Raiders camp. The new offensive staff, led by Cliff Kingsbury, is leaning heavily into 2 tight end formations, something that was talked about under the old regime but never fully implemented. Last season, under Luke Getsy, there was talk of 12 personnel, but it disappeared quickly. This time, it's real. The scheme is shifting, and Mayer is right in the heart of it. Not just surviving in this offense, but being positioned to thrive. Everything we're seeing from this Raiders offense points to one clear identity: physical, disciplined football, the kind of style that wins in the postseason. That vision? It lines up with what PeteCarroll has always preached: tough defense, smart decision-making, protecting the football, and winning the trenches. And it fits exactly what Cliff Kingsbury is implementing now in Las Vegas. Utilizing 12 personnel, 1 running back, 2 tight ends, and 2 wide receivers gives the Raiders the flexibility to run, pass, and control the tempo. But what's really surprising is the increased use of 13 personnel, something rarely seen outside of goal line or short yardage situations. Most teams don't dare line up with 3 tight ends unless it's third and inches or inside the red zone. But the Raiders aren't just most teams anymore. They're building a system modeled after the success of physical offenses like the Dolphins and 49ers, both of whom use 13 personnel to create mismatches and overwhelm defenses with power and deception. This isn't old-school ground-and-pound football. It's strategic, and it's dangerous, especially with versatile weapons. Because here's the thing, 13 personnel doesn't mean all 3 tight ends are glued to the line of scrimmage. You can flex one into the slot, motion another into the backfield, or isolate one in coverage. Imagine this setup: Michael Mayer holding down the traditional inline role, Brock Bowers stretching the field from the slot, and Ian Thomas shifting into a fullback alignment. That's power, versatility, and unpredictability, all in one package. And it's a nightmare for defenses to prepare for. The Raiders aren't just changing the personnel, they're changing the identity. Don't be shocked if the Raiders lean all the way into power football this year, stacking the field with Michael Mayer, Brock Bowers, and Ian Thomas to create one of the most physically imposing offensive looks in the league. This team is going to run the ball, not occasionally, not situationally, relentlessly. And Mayer's recent comments make it clear this offense isn't hiding its intentions. It's going to punch teams in the mouth, wear down defenses, and dominate the line of scrimmage. That's why the decision to keep Mayer and not shop him is so important. It's the biggest win of the offseason. The Raiders are doubling down on a player who fits their new identity perfectly. It's not just about talent, it's about philosophy. And Mayer fits the mold of the offense they're building. Now, while this doesn't directly impact Las Vegas, one headline caught attention across the league. Darren Waller, the former Raiders Pro Bowl tight end, is coming out of retirement and has already been traded. Waller, who had been with the Giants, was part of a deal finalized with the Miami Dolphins. But here's the twist. The trade wasn't for high-end draft capital. It was a simple late-round pick swap. The Giants received a 6th rounder, the Dolphins got a 7th, and Waller was tossed in as part of the deal. It's wild to think the Raiders once got a 3rd-round pick for Waller, a pick that turned into Trey Tucker, one of the fastest players in last year's draft. Now, less than a year later, Waller moves for almost nothing. It's a clear sign that the Raiders made the right call, moving on when they did and investing in the future, not the past. It's still incredible when you think about it. The Raiders managed to get a 3rd-round pick for Darren Waller not long ago. Just a year and a half, maybe 2 years back. That kind of return looks even better today, considering how things have unfolded. Now, Waller's back. He's unretired, returning to the league after stepping away, and this time he's suiting up for the Miami Dolphins. His retirement. It caught a lot of people off guard, but Waller explained it himself recently on a podcast. He said there was a moment when a coach asked him to serve as a lead blocker on a running play, and something inside him just snapped. That moment made him stop and question everything. What am I doing? Is this really still for me? That's the brutal honesty of the NFL. It's not all highlight reels and touchdown dances. It's the grind, the wear and tear. And not every player is built to love all of it. For a while, it looked like Waller had moved on for good. But time has a strange way of reigniting the fire. Maybe he missed the game. Maybe the competitive itch came back. Or maybe, after stepping away, he realized that football still meant something deep down. There's been speculation about his motivations. Some people throw around rumors about money. But the truth might be much simpler. Sometimes it takes walking away to remember why you loved the game in the first place. And say what you will about Waller, when he's healthy and motivated, the man can ball. He's overcome personal struggles, battled his way back, and earned every yard the hard way. If he's locked in, Mike McDaniel now has a dangerous new weapon in that Dolphins offense. No hate, no shade, just respect for the journey and curiosity to see what Waller does next. Wishing Darren Waller the best on his return is one thing, but now let's shift to a topic that's made headlines across draft circles: Shadeur Sanders. While this doesn't directly impact the Raiders, it's something that sparked league-wide conversation, and it reveals a deeper look at why some NFL teams, including Las Vegas, may have passed on the Colorado quarterback. According to several reports, new details have emerged about why Shadeur Sanders slid down draft boards. And honestly, it's surprising, not just because of his on-field talent, but because of how basic the concerns appear to be. Evaluations weren't just about film or stats. Teams reportedly had questions about his professionalism during interviews, his attitude, his responses, how he handled standard NFL-level scrutiny. And that part matters. NFL scouting isn't just about 40-yard dash times or throwing velocity. It's about who you are when the pressure's on. Teams dive deep into your high school years, your past coaches, your habits, your leadership. Every detail gets dissected. At events like the Hula Bowl, where prospects meet scouts face-to-face, it becomes clear just how detailed and intense the process really is. Scouts flood the hotel lobbies, pulling players aside, texting them for meetings, and firing off questions that seem minor but matter. It's not unusual to be asked about something that happened when you were 16. And in those moments, how you respond says everything. The buzz around Shadour wasn't just about ability. It was about how he handled those moments. And some teams didn't like what they saw. That's not to say he can't grow or that he won't succeed. But at the highest level, maturity and accountability matter as much as arm strength and athleticism. It's a reminder. Talent gets you in the door, but character keeps you in the league. If you're preparing to be an NFL quarterback, there's one thing that's non-negotiable. You have to live and breathe the details. And that's where the latest concerns around Shadeur Sanders get real. According to NFL insider Albert Breer, the New York Giants conducted a common draft interview test. They gave Sanders an install sheet containing intentional mistakes. These kinds of tests are routine. They're designed to see who can spot the red flags, who truly understands the structure of an NFL offense, and who's just memorizing plays without grasping their purpose. Sanders didn't catch the errors, and when he was called out on it, reports say he got upset. Now that reaction? That's what really raised eyebrows. It's not about making a mistake. Every rookie does. But the ability to recognize, adjust, and handle criticism, that's where quarterbacks separate themselves. NFL teams are looking for leaders who can command a huddle, adapt in real time, and own their mistakes. And in that moment, Sanders reportedly fell short. Here's an example of how subtle these tests can be. Imagine you've got a wide receiver running a post route on the outside. You wouldn't pair that with another post route from the inside. It's poor spacing. It ruins the concept. Maybe you run a clear-out route to open space underneath, or you design a crossing pattern to create separation. The mistake in the install might look small, two routes that don't belong together, but a top-tier quarterback is expected to see it instantly. Shadour didn't, and worse, he took offense to being tested that way. It's not about blaming one player or writing him off, but when you're a quarterback, the face of a franchise, you don't just study football, you understand it. You lead, you adjust, and most importantly, you take feedback like a pro. This is the level the NFL demands, and if Sanders wants to succeed, these moments can't be seen as disrespect. They have to be seen as opportunities to prove you belong. What's coming out about Shadeur Sanders right now is striking, not because it's unprecedented, but because it's happening at a time when everything matters. Another reported moment involved a bad interception. a deep shot early in a game. During the film review, the coaching staff asked the obvious question, "What happened here?" Sanders reportedly responded, "I like to get into rhythm early in the game." That answer led to tension, and his final reaction? "Maybe I'm just not a fit for you." Let that sink in. During a combine interview, when prospects are supposed to show teams why they're the right fit, Sanders was the one suggesting he wasn't. For NFL evaluators, that kind of response raises red flags, not just about decision-making, but about coachability, self-awareness, and how a quarterback handles pressure when the room gets uncomfortable. One insider put it bluntly, "I've never heard anything like that before." This process isn't new. Players are tested mentally, emotionally, and tactically, especially quarterbacks. These interviews aren't just about drawing plays on a whiteboard. They're about understanding how you lead when things go wrong. And when you push back instead of leaning in, teams notice. Now, to be clear, no one outside those rooms can say definitively who Sanders is. These are just glimpses, stories, concerns. But this much is undeniable. The buzz that once surrounded him as a possible first-round pick, maybe even QB1, has faded. And that fall didn't start with a poor throw. It started with doubts about processing speed, decision-making under pressure, and leadership traits that every successful NFL quarterback must possess. Even early on in the draft process, some analysts pointed to his struggles reading the field, particularly when it came to deep passing and timing concepts. The tools are there, but the polish, the NFL-ready mental game? That's still a question. None of this means Shadeur Sanders can't succeed in the NFL, but the path forward will require more than arm strength or name recognition. It'll require growth, humility, and a deeper understanding of what this league demands from its quarterbacks, not just in talent, but in mindset. One of the biggest misconceptions in evaluating quarterbacks, especially prospects like Shadeur Sanders, is relying too much on completion percentage. On paper, his numbers may look efficient, but tape tells a different story. Accuracy isn't just about hitting easy throws underneath. True accuracy, the kind that separates starting NFL quarterbacks from backups, is judged on throws beyond 15 yards, ball placement under pressure, and timing. Sanders struggled with that, especially on deeper routes. It's not about hitting a checkdown at 3 yards. It's about hitting a crossing route at 25 yards in stride, with a defender closing in. And when you dig into his film, that level of precision wasn't consistent. Stats can mislead. A 3-yard screen inflates your numbers. A beautifully thrown 40-yard pass that's just out of bounds, it won't show up in your favor. But the film never lies. And for Sanders, the film raised concerns, not just with mechanics, but with feel, processing, and decision-making. That's why early on it was hard to see him as a true first-round talent. Meanwhile, a guy like CamWard showed more flashes, not perfect, but more dynamic at times. For quarterback-needy teams like the Titans, Ward made more sense. Another name worth mentioning in this conversation is Dillon Gabriel, now also with the Browns. If you're just looking at polish and control, Gabriel might already be ahead of Sanders. He's not a loud, flashy leader, but he plays with discipline and confidence. Sometimes quieter leadership can be a concern. Not every locker room responds to it. But Gabriel brings a steadiness that coaches respect. It's clear the Cleveland Browns have options. And while Sanders may have name recognition and raw tools, he's going to have to earn it. Nothing will be handed to him in that quarterback room. No one's rooting against him. Every player deserves a shot. But the NFL doesn't run on hype. It runs on tape, leadership, and growth. If Sanders can evolve, mentally, emotionally, and physically, he still has a path forward. But the road won't be easy. Not anymore. The Cleveland Browns quarterback room is one of the most crowded in the league, featuring names like Deshaun Watson, Kenny Pickett, Joe Flacco, and 2 rookies battling for a spot. It's going to be one of the most intriguing competitions to watch as camp approaches. Who rises? Who falls? Who becomes the future? Time will tell. As we head into the final stretch before training camp, information slows down, but the questions don't. Teams are finalizing depth charts, rookies are absorbing playbooks, and fans are waiting to see how it all plays out on the field. The real stories begin when the pads come on. Until then, all we can do is keep studying, keep preparing, and stay locked in on the players, decisions, and trends that matter most.